Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match. Daniil Medvedev versus Alexander Zverev, Australian Open 2024 semifinal. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video. Sorry for the delay on this one, everybody. Sleep got in the way, other responsibilities got in the way. Nothing has been able to get in the way of Daniil Medvedev. Not even the most dire situations that he has found himself in throughout this Australian Open run, and time again has navigated his way out. He comes back from down 2-0 to beat Alexander Zverev and advance to his third Australian Open final. Where do I begin? You know, one of my big takeaways from watching Medvedev throughout this run is sometimes I wonder if he doesn't realize how good he is, because what's been happening multiple times now is he's found himself in these situations where a couple of things are true. First thing is that he's losing, that he's down. Second thing is that he's tired. And that's not a good position to be in. It's not where you want to be. It has forced Medvedev to play differently. He knew when he was 2-0 down in this match, he wasn't going to be able to play his regular style for another 3 sets. Just didn't have the legs to do it. He knew at the start of the 5th set, when he was cramping at the end of the 4th against Hubert Hurkacz, that he wasn't going to be able to play his normal style against Hurkacz if he wanted to win the match. He was going to have to change things up. So he forces the issue more. He goes bigger off the ground. He mixes in more net approaching, comes in off of every short ball. And this isn't his game. It's more of an emergency tactic that he finds himself being forced into playing. And then he executes it. And it works. And that's what keeps happening here. And it's not the first time I've seen it from him. And that's why I say I wonder if Daniil sometimes doesn't know how good he is, because he can do these things that he doesn't default to, and that isn't really his plan A or maybe even his plan B. But then so often when he goes to C or D, the problem with most players when they do that is they don't do the plan well, right? You can come up with all these kinds of ideas. For example, you can tell Taylor Fritz, Taylor, you're playing Novak, you've lost 8 times in a row, I want you to just be a net rusher, come forward all the time. You can go to that, and then the problem is there's execution issues. It feels like when Medvedev goes to plan C and plan D, he's able to do them well. It's remarkable. As we stand right now, this is one of the most amazing slam runs I've ever seen in terms of resilience. As I mentioned, he looked dead in the quarterfinal. He looked dead in this semifinal. And then there's the other time where he came back from down 2-0, more closer to the start of this journey against Emil Ruusuvuori, which was, by the way, a match that finished past 3 a.m. Just incredible. But as for the Zverev head-to-head and zooming in on the semifinal, you know, clutchness has been a massive story in their recent head-to-head. I mean, a lot has been made of the fact that Zverev had a lot of success early on in the head-to-head, and now Medvedev has come on really, really, really strong, and he's won the vast majority of their last 10 to 12 matches here. But so many of them are close matches. So many of them. Medvedev is currently on a streak where he's won 6 tiebreaks in a row against Zverev. And he needed both of them that he won in this semifinal. It was in the 3rd set and the 4th set he had to win tiebreaks. But going back before that, it's now a streak of 6 in a row. And not to mention, there were a couple of deciding set tiebreaks that he beat Zverev in when they played each other last year. What about deciding sets? Medvedev has won 6 out of the last 8 deciding sets that he has played against Zverev. I don't think this is a coincidence. I think Medvedev deals with pressure better. That's it. It looked for a little while in this match that Zverev might be able to avoid getting into those tight pressure situations because he was outplaying Daniil pretty solidly. We'll get into that in a moment. But I think that's important to note that this is a huge pattern. Now, I will say that a lot of the credit goes more to Medvedev this time. And I know that Zverev isn't going to get the benefit of the doubt given his history. I mean, after all, he has blown a 2-0 lead in a major final, and now he's done the same in a major semifinal. I tweeted after the match, and I didn't really get a definitive answer. I don't know if there's been anybody else who has come back from 2-love down in a slam semi which he did against Pablo Carreño Busta at the 2020 U.S. Open, and also blown that 2-love lead in a slam semi. He might be the only player that's ever happened to. But I know that Zverev is not going to get the benefit of the doubt, but if you really do look at it, there was no definitive choke from Zverev here. And there have been a lot of moments throughout his career where that hasn't been the case, where there's been a definitive choke. I mean, you look at the way he was hitting first serves in the tiebreak against Thiem, for example, in 2020. Like, that was a definitive choke. When you're Alexander Zverev and you can't, like, hit faster than 115 miles per hour on your first serve, that's a definitive choke. In this match, there was a tight missed forehand when Zverev was up 5-4 in the third set tiebreak. Or was he down 5-4? I just have 5-4 written. Let me check this real quick. Oh, no, he was down 5-4. And he was trying to recover the mini break. And he actually got a second serve, made a good return, and then missed the next forehand. That was probably the worst moment that I can point to when the finish line was pretty close and there was a major mistake made. Whereas in the past with Zverev, you know, you can look at times where, he served for that set and double faulted twice and missed an overhead, like stuff like that. And this wasn't quite like that, is all I'm really saying. He was solid in the fourth set tiebreak. At this point in the match, he wasn't really generating break opportunities, so it wasn't like he was blowing break chances everywhere. And then he never had a lead in the fifth. The fifth set wasn't particularly close. So no definitive choke from Zverev, but Medvedev was definitely the braver player. If you look at Daniil in the big moments in this match, third and fourth sets, and again, in the fifth sets, there were no big moments. It was just one player much better than the other. But what was amazing is what a great job Medvedev did of not losing any aggression in these tiebreaks. He went after his shots in a big way. There were a lot of moments you can point to. Look at the set point in the third set, just as one example. Zverev makes a decent return here. And this is a huge spot. It's 6-4 at set point. Zverev makes a nice cross-court return. Medvedev drives the +1 ball hard down the line to force the error, where he very well could have been like, good return. Let me just trade this back cross. Like, this isn't really my ball to attack. Let's just settle into a baseline rally here. But that's not what got Medvedev to that point. And Daniil really stuck to his guns. So now let's talk about the shift in this match. You have part one of the match where Zverev is the better player. And then you have part two where Medvedev makes changes. So look, this was classic Zverev-Medvedev at the start, where neither guy could hit through each other. The rallies were long and grueling. Quality was pretty good. You know, sometimes they are a little bit scratchier when they play each other, but I think they were playing pretty well. Zverev's net game was the X factor. There's no doubt about it. It was a bit of a stalemate from the baseline, but Zverev was the guy who was proactively coming forward and getting those easy opportunities to finish points on his own terms, and Medvedev was not getting that. You can look at the 6-5 game. Zverev serving for it, and this was kind of classic. First set was actually, I said they weren't scratchy, but the first set was a little bit. 6-5 game, Zverev serving for it. He comes forward, first 2 points, a serve and volley and a +1 approach. He goes up 30-love. Then he stayed back on the next 4 points and lost 3 of them. Deuce. Then he came in on the next 4. He won 3 out of the 4 to close the deal, but the 1 point he lost was an atrocious high forehand volley miss that he should have put away. It looked a lot like a volley that he would miss a little bit later on in a big spot, start of the third set tiebreak. So basically when Zverev was staying back, his forehand would end up causing some issues for him, but he really did have the get out of jail card, and he was doing a good job of hiding his weakness and finding his opponent's weakness. So for Zverev, that means don't sit back where you're going to allow Medvedev to slow ball your forehand, and take the positioning advantage that Medvedev is going to offer you up in order to take control of the net really early on in points when you're able to. And when Zverev was loose, his baseline power did have some really great moments. There were some spots in the first two sets where Zverev was, this doesn't happen often enough, but he was hitting really, really big. He also served better than Medvedev. More consistent first serving, higher percentage first serving, less double fault prone than Medvedev, who had some issues with that early on. So that's how Zverev went up 2-0. What changed for Medvedev? Let me get it out of the way. First and foremost, Daniil picked up his serving big time. He served below 55% in the first two sets. Next three, he went 71, 60, and 71. And if you look at the 60 in the fourth set tiebreak, or in the fourth set in general, I kind of give Daniil bonus points because regardless of maybe the fact that he didn't have an awesome percentage serving set in the fourth, the tiebreak was great serving for Medvedev. He really took a lot of pressure off of himself and just hit so many serves that created short balls for his +1. Adjustments, though, other than that's not really an adjustment. That's just executing something better. But he did move in on the return. So he starts taking returns earlier. And while this did not become a break fest, Medvedev didn't move up and start breaking Zverev constantly. I do think it made a difference. I think it made that 5 to 10% difference where he was able to find some big points here and there against a Zverev whose first serve percentage was unbelievable as ever. He's still not missing any first serves and hitting them all 128. It's pretty incredible. So breaks aren't going to come easy, but you look at the first point of the third set tiebreak. It's a good example. Slice out wide on the deuce. Medvedev cuts it off early, hard forehand, forces the error, cross court. It's a very Djokovic or Sinner like return. 5-all in the fourth set tiebreak. This is the shot that everybody should be talking about after the match. If there is one point that you're going to remember this match for, it's this 5-all point in the fourth set tiebreak where Medvedev shanks a forehand return. But he was standing up. He was taking it early. And by the way, and he talked about this in his press conference, when he is up on the baseline, he does not have time to change his grip. So he kind of needs to guess with his grip. And if he guesses backhand grip, he has to chip the forehand. So this was one of those things. He guesses backhand grip. He has to chip the forehand. It turns into a return, a first serve return, drop shot winner, which was lucky. He was not going for it. But it did make me think of the fact that if you're on the back fence, you don't even give yourself the opportunity to get lucky in that respect. Like that just wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that, Daniil's such a genius because he came up and then made this lucky shot because he was up. But I'm also not saying that. If he was back, that just wouldn't have happened. And also, it's funny because it did make me think of when I'm like coaching juniors, and you guys know I started doing a little bit of coaching, just a little, no major time commitment. When some of the less advanced kids come forward, they're shanking volleys all the time. So often it works. It's a winner because you get close enough to the net at a certain point, you put yourself in a good position or in a better position, and you tend to get lucky more. That I do believe in. I think that's true. So that's 5-all in the fourth set tiebreak. He hits an ace on the next point and wins the fourth set. And then at deuce 2-all in the fifth with Zverev serving, this was the point of the fifth set. Most important point of the fifth set, bar none. This one. Zverev serves wide on the deuce. Medvedev chips a forehand return. Zverev has a backhand approach shot, which he hits cross court and comes in. And this is the foolproof tactic where you win the point against Medvedev every time. If you can hit a good wide serve on the deuce and then an approach shot into the open court, you have Daniil 15 feet behind the baseline hitting a backhand passing shot from his shins. That is why he hasn't been able, that has given him so much trouble in big matches against big rivals. But if you watch this one back, positionally, he's able to get across quicker, and he's not as far back, so he hits the pass at a higher contact point. So Medvedev hits this gorgeous backhand pass, cross court. And at face value, it just looks like Daniil hit this really high degree of difficulty pass. He just hit this great passing shot, and there's nothing more to it. But if you just have the presence of mind to think a little bit harder about how it would have gone if he was further back, well, then you realize he's further back when he attempts that pass, and he's further outside the singles sideline, so he might not even get to the other sideline as quickly. And therefore, maybe Zverev has a forced error. Maybe he has a winner instead of getting passed. So positionally, that little percentage makes a difference, or that those small details make a difference. Other than that, whole baseline mentality kind of changed for Medvedev. He was playing up on the baseline more. He was hitting with more offensive intention. And I was really impressed with just how well he was able to execute that, because, I mean, maybe he made a few more errors, but he never got sloppy. He never really got erratic, but his ground stroke aggression was really, really good. And he started coming forward. So many big spots where Medvedev took short/neutral balls that he would normally never, ever think about coming forward on, and he would normally play neutral back. So many balls he ended up taking as an approach shot, especially sets 3 and set 4. Let me give you the net stats. First set, 2 of 4 for Medvedev at net. Second set, 3 of 4. So basically he's not doing it. Third set, 10 of 12. There, now we're talking. Fourth set, 7 of 8. Still double what he did in the first 2 sets. So massive difference in net rushing. Anybody know what set 5 was? 0-4-0. Let's get to that now. Medvedev reads the game yet again. He sees that Zverev has started to slow down from the baseline. He's looking tired in his movement. And Medvedev himself started feeling better physically. I just think shot of adrenaline. He's back in the match. The points had been a little bit less taxing. Maybe that helped. But I think it was mostly the adrenaline and the positive kind of mind over matter rush of adrenaline and the effect of success, right? Like success helps your body. Failure hurts your body. So Medvedev's feeling better physically. He pulls back the aggression completely in this 5th set. As soon as he sees that Zverev is slowing down from the baseline, Medvedev decides, oh, okay, you're about to feel a lot of pain because I'm not going to give you pace, and I'm not going to give you errors, and I'm not going to give you passing shots. No. We're going to start to do some baseline grinding, buddy. And if you don't like it, too bad. And Zverev just wasn't prepared to do it. Just amazing. I mean, Medvedev went to deeper return positions, no net approaches, as I mentioned, slower ground stroke speeds, just focusing on depth, remaining unattackable. And Zverev's ground stroke consistency, at a certain point, it completely imploded. So all it took for Medvedev was volume of balls. And it ended up being a pretty easy 5th set. He broke it 2-all. I believe it was his first break since the first set or the second set. Let me refresh myself on that. Second set. I think the first set. It was the first. Yeah, so he broke in the 5th set for the first time since the first set at 2-all. And what happened? At 15-love, Zverev hit a great backhand down the line. Medvedev took a hack at it. High and short squash forehand. Zverev comes in, nets a forehand into wide open court. Really easy forehand put away that he missed. Next point, Zverev missed a first ball forehand down the line pretty badly. I think it was wide and long. Then he hit a good first serve, did a smart delayed serve and volley, and then missed this 10 out of 10 forehand put away volley. That put him down 15-40. Zverev did get back to deuce. The point at deuce is the passing shot that I talked about where Medvedev's closer return position helped him. And then break point down, Zverev netted a +1 forehand that was put up on a platter for him. Like if I were feeding Zverev +1 forehands, I'd pretty much feed him that ball, and he missed it. At 5-3, Medvedev is serving. Zverev is serving to make Medvedev serve it out at 5-4 and doesn't make it happen. Zverev missed 2 first ball forehands, a backhand down the line off of a slow cross-court trade, and an aggressive forehand off of a Medvedev defensive slice on match point. Medvedev in the 5th set won 27 points on 21 Zverev unforced errors. In a way, my prediction for this match was so wrong because, look, I just thought whoever took a lead in this match was going to win, whoever took a sizable lead, because whoever was down was going to be too tired to come back. And that part was couldn't have been more wrong. I will gladly admit that Medvedev shocked me with what he was able to do here. What I was correct about is that if they play a 5th set, one of them is not going to be in shape to do it. And it just happened to be Zverev. What stood out about this performance for Medvedev, just final concluding words, the awareness and feel that he has of what's happening in his game and what's happening with his opponent's game, his ability to make decisions about how he wants to play based on that information is just unbelievable. I mean, he has his finger on the pulse of these tennis matches. It is remarkable stuff. Such memorable wins that Zverev has come up with throughout this Australian Open run. And this one is first and foremost so far pending Sunday. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.